See, I told you, it absolutely chokes me up every time I tell this story. And I was at the other side of the room, and I was on the floor, and I was with a couple of the boys, and we were doing making aeroplanes and things like that. And I just noticed, I don't know how, or I can't explain it, but I just happened to look up. It was a sense that something was going to happen. I remember looking up, and I saw this girl, Anna, and she started weaving her way through the crowd of people. They were all on the floor, and she was stood up, and she was sort of weaving her way through. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Anton here with Let's Talk About Life with Anton. Now, this is going to be the final video in my little series of short stories. So ever since I started the channel 4 or 5 months ago, I wanted to create like a playlist of short stories that had meaningful endings in them about life's experiences that I've been through, meeting famous people. There's all sorts of different scenarios on the stories, but it always had a little twist at the end. There was always a lesson to be learned after each story. And yeah, it's been really, really enjoyable doing these stories and going back down memory lane and sharing some of my experiences and people that I've met over the years. And I thought it'd be quite fitting to end this little mini playlist or mini series on a story which I'm going to share with you now that happened back in 2009. And this moment will probably stay with me for the rest of my life. In fact, it will stay with me for the rest of my life because it still touches me even now telling you the story. In the summer of 2009, I was actually in between jobs, and I was asked by a local church if I'd be interested in going on what they called like a mission trip. So it was like a 2-week trip to Romania, to one of the orphanages that they were connected with at the time. And they wanted me to go along with all these young people from the church. So there was about 23 or 24 members of the church that were aged between 16 and about 19. And they needed a couple of like leaders to go along. And the only leader they had was a lovely lady who was, she was about 23 at the time, 23, 24. And there was a little bit of concern from some of the parents, especially who had the 16-year-old children that were going on this trip, that they felt maybe that they wanted somebody else to go along as well. And for insurance purposes and all the other stuff that goes with it, they needed somebody a little bit older, preferably a male. And I fitted the bill because I was actually doing some volunteer work at that particular church at the time. So I got asked to go on this mission trip, didn't really know much about it, but I thought, hey, you know what? This is going to be amazing because I can go out to Romania for a couple of weeks and yeah, like enjoy myself and give back to society sort of thing, go and help some kids that are a lot less fortunate than my own children. So that was the sort of thinking behind it. But I never realized what those 2 weeks actually did for me. It was incredible. So I won't bore you with all the details, but basically in a nutshell, we flew out. We did some volunteering work before actually to raise money and stuff like that. So we flew out to Romania, had an arduous like 8-hour trip along dusty roads with the worst potholes that you can imagine. Absolutely unbelievable. And then when we got to our destination, I remember speaking to the driver and I said, I just can't believe that that we took that long road. Like, what, is there no motorways? Like, what's going on? He went, oh yeah, no, there is a motorway, but I didn't want to pay the toll fees for the motorway. And I sort of looked at him and I was like, are you joking? You didn't want to pay the toll fees for an 8-hour journey that would have probably taken about 3 hours. You didn't want to pay the toll fees. And there's me in my head going, well, I would have paid them. Like, oh man. Anyway, but that was, we saw the funny side of it and everyone was laughing and stuff like that. But that was an experience in itself. But anyway, we got to the orphanage, and this orphanage was it was incredible. The work that they were doing in this particular town was just out of this world. It was unbelievable. There was about 30 children in this orphanage at the time, and the age range of this group of children were from 5 up until I think about 17 or 18, and then they had to obviously for legal reasons leave the orphanage and go and look after themselves. But from a 5-year-old up to sort of 17, I think it was, that was the age group. And again, it was boys and girls all mixed in to this orphanage, and it was absolutely eye-opening. I mean, from the moment we stepped in there, I just couldn't believe it. As I say, I had 2 young children myself, daughters, and I knew what their life was like and everything that they get, all the privileges and everything they take for granted. And then I come out to Romania and see the way that these children were, how their lives had turned out. It was heartbreaking, but really fulfilling at the same time that I was there and I could, even just for those 2 weeks, make a little bit of a difference. It was huge. And and that's basically what happened. So for 2 weeks straight, we were teaching them stories from the Bible. We were doing plays. We were dressing up. We were making paper things out of tissue paper. We were painting fences. I was playing sports with the guys and some of the girls out in the little dusty field out the back. At night, we would have had food with them, and we built this campfire at the back. And a couple of the guys played the guitar, so they were playing the guitar, and we were singing songs, and it was absolutely unbelievable. And one of the things that I didn't realize was I thought I was going out there to change their lives, but the reality was they actually changed my life, because at the time I was, again, like I said, I was in between jobs. It's a very difficult time in me and my wife's marriage with young children. And if you've got young kids, you'll know exactly where I'm coming from with this. It's, sleepless nights, and, it's all very stressful. And going out there, I didn't realize the impact it would have on me to bring back to the UK. But the reason why I'm telling you this story and the ending to it basically is that there was one particular child at that orphanage that I noticed straight away, probably because I had a daughter that was a very, very similar age, and they actually looked quite similar. So straight away, I just tried to connect with this young girl. Her name was Anna. She was 5 years of age. And from the first moment we got in there, I clocked onto her and thought, oh, wow, that's, reminds me of my daughter back home, who I knew was missing me at the time. So I started asking some of the older children. Some of them spoke a little bit of English, and we established that this little girl, her father was a drug dealer and her mum was a prostitute. And obviously the Romanian social services had intervened, understandably, and had to take her out of the household and put her into this orphanage because her parents just weren't capable of looking after her. So that in itself is just absolutely heartbreaking. A little 5-year-old girl was taken out of her home for her own safety, say, because her dad was into drugs and was a drug dealer, and the mum was a prostitute. So hearing all that, you just sort of feel like picking her up and giving her a big hug and telling her that it will be okay, and there's people around that love you and care for you and all that. But obviously you have to be careful, especially for somebody, like myself. You can't really go around, picking kids up and hugging them and all that sort of stuff. So, I was very wary about the boundaries and stuff like that. Plus, this little girl was being looked after by a couple of the 16, 17-year-old girls. So they were like sort of a little bit of a mother to her, which she loved. So she continuously just sat there pretty much for a week and a half, nearly 2 weeks, sitting on their knees, wouldn't really interact with any of us. A couple of the girls that was on the mission trip with me from the UK, they managed to sort of get a bit more sort of interaction out of her and play games and all that sort of stuff. But for myself, yeah, it was very difficult. She was obviously completely and utterly petrified of me. I'm not a small man, so you know, this guy coming into their orphanage, she was obviously had experience of men in the past, and I don't know, you know, how bad it was for her, but I can imagine it must have been pretty bad, because she was absolutely petrified of me. And anyway, I don't like to give up on anything very easily, so I had it in my head that I would do everything and anything in my power just to let her know that I was there, and you know, if she, you know, if nothing else came out of it, I wanted her to know that not all men are bad in this world. There are, you know, very good men in this world, and I just wanted her to know that as a 5-year-old girl, that, you know, if nothing else. So I spent 2 weeks basically doing all this stuff that we were doing there, helping out. And on the very last day, we were getting the bus back to the airport, and I'd had an amazing time. It was incredible experience, unbelievable. Again, one that I'll never forget. But I also felt a little bit dejected, I suppose the only word I can think of, that I hadn't made that connection with this little girl. And like I said, I felt so deeply sorry for her in particular. I mean, all the others as well, but this particular girl she was the youngest, she was the smallest, she was the most timid. The others were a bit more straightforward and interacted, and she was just so shy and everything. And you can tell I'm getting emotional, because and this is like 16 years ago, and I'm still getting emotional about it, talking about it, because it just was incredible. It really was, and that's why I wanted to include it in the short story playlist. But she, on the very last morning, we were all sat in one big room, and we were all on the floor, and we were making these flowers and things like that from tissue paper. And she was at the far side of the room with one of the volunteers, a friend of mine, and they were making flowers and things like that. See, I told you, it absolutely chokes me up every time I tell this story. And I was at the other side of the room, and I was on the floor, and I was with a couple of the boys, and we were doing making aeroplanes and things like that. And I just noticed, I don't know how, or I can't explain it, but I just happened to look up. It was a sense that something was going to happen. I remember looking up, and I saw this girl, Anna, and she started weaving her way through the crowd of people. They were all on the floor, and she was stood up, and she was sort of weaving her way through, making her way over towards where I was. And I thought, wow, I wonder what this is all about. And she made her way over to me, and then from behind her back pulled out this flower that she had made from tissue paper, and she handed it to me as a gift. And she recognised that I was always there, smiling, waving, and she'd seen that for 2 weeks. But she didn't sort of engage back at any point. She didn't let me know whether she was feeling uncomfortable or comfortable, whatever. I just didn't get any signals from her at all. And to have her make her way across the floor and then hand me this little flower that she'd made as a gift, knowing I was going home that day. Yeah, it was incredible. And I know I get emotional about it because it was like, after everything I'd done, I just didn't think I was making any progress at all. And this is probably one of the lessons I want you to take out of this short story is sometimes just persevering and not getting anything back doesn't necessarily mean you're not getting further on in your journey. It might just mean that you just don't know how far you've gone until somebody shows you or lets you know. And that particular morning, boy oh boy, did she let me know, because that was just one of the most incredible moments I've experienced. And like I said, 16 years later, it still sits with me. This girl is, again, hopefully still, well, she's 21 years of age now, would have been, so, or still is, I don't know. We lost contact with the particular orphanage quite a few years back, unfortunately, and then, like I said, when they get to a certain age, they're gone anyway. So, but yeah, I mean, that was just unbelievable, and everyone from the trip recognized the significance of what she actually did, and they just couldn't believe it. They were blown away, and they were so happy for me as well, because they knew that was the one thing that I was really craving more than anything. So yeah, that's the lesson from the short story. I know, yeah, it's well, for me it's obviously very important. I don't know whether if you've experienced anything like that, or whether it's something that you can relate to, but yeah, it was just something that I really felt that I just needed to put out there on my channel and share. So hope you enjoyed that. Sorry, I got a bit emotional there. It's I could do this video 100 times and still have the same reaction. So I thought I might as well just go with it. There's no point in re-recording it because I would still be the way I'd be. So yeah, thanks very much for tuning in and watching this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you took something out of it. Like I said, just keep on going. Just keep pushing forward, and things magical will happen. If you enjoyed this story, or you're intrigued about any of the other short stories, then I'll link to the videos at the end of this video of some of the other encounters that I've had. And yeah, I just want to say again, thank you so much. If you have subscribed to my channel, thank you so much. It means so much to me. And if you haven't, no problem. I hope you enjoyed it, and there'll be loads of videos coming up in the next couple of months anyway. So yeah, take care, God bless, and I'll see you in another video.